Lesson 8.2, Multiplying Binomials. So today we're going to talk about kind of a different kind of distribution, and I'm going to show you three different methods. We've got kind of traditional distribution, and then distribution we call FOIL, and then another method which you guys may have seen before in biology. It's called the box method, and it's really similar to biology's Punnett squares. All of this is just to kind of take care of what if we don't just have like a single number outside or a single letter outside parentheses. What if we have two parentheses right up next to each other? All right, and this is how we take care of it. This first method is called double distributive, right? And what we're going to do is we are going to break up this first term. We're going to write x, and we're going to write 3. Okay, we're breaking up the first one, and then we're taking this second one, and we're multiplying x times that second group, and we're multiplying 3 times that second group. So essentially, each part of this is multiplying the second group, but we're just breaking it up first. So when we do this, we get x times x, which is x squared, x times 2, which is positive 2x. Then we move on to the next part. 3 times x is positive 3x, and 3 times 2 is positive 6. To finish, we have to always check for like terms, which we do have here in the middle. So we've got x squared plus 5x, right? 2x plus 3x is 5x, and then plus 6. And no more like terms exist here, so we are left with this trinomial. Trinomial means I have 3 terms, right? Always get into the habit of checking to make sure you did this correctly, especially while we're just learning, you guys, and you got to make sure that you're doing this the right way. Typing this in just how it looked originally, and then I'm typing in the trinomial that I was left with, right? Because I distributed. They should be equivalent, they're just written different ways. So I've got these two equations, so these two expressions, and I'm going to look at my graph. Notice the first one's going to show up in blue, the second one's going to show up in red. Okay, so here's my first one, and my second one goes right over it. Okay, that means I did it correctly, right? That means that they're still equivalent, they're just written different ways. All right, the second example, we're going to do more of the same here. We're going to start by splitting up the first group. So I've got a 2x and a minus 6. And then I'm going to take the second group, and it's going to get multiplied by each piece of the first group. Again, that's why this is called double distributive, is because now that I've separated it, I have to distribute twice. So 2x plus x is 2x squared, right, because 1 plus 1. 2x times 2 is positive 4x. On the end here, we've got negative 6 times x, which is negative 6x, and negative 6 times 2, which is negative 12. So, to finish, just like last time, check for like terms, which we have in the middle here. And we've got 2x squared minus 2x, right? 4 minus 6 is negative 2, and then minus 12. All right, I'm going to check my answer just to make sure. And please, y'all, if you're wise, you're doing this exact same thing here with me. So we're typing this in the original one, 2x minus 6. And then we had x plus 2. And my second expression is what I ended up with, which in this case was 2x squared minus 2x minus 12. All right, and we get the same graph, hopefully. We do. All right, so we're correct. Now, I'm not going to do these, the graph checking for any more of these just to save time. Hopefully you get the idea and you get into the habit yourself of checking to make sure that you're doing your distribution correctly. All right, the next method is called FOIL. This is the one that I did the most throughout high school and college, and when you guys move up to geometry and algebra 2, that may be what you hear it called. I feel like this kind of is the most common one. And the FOIL is just first, outside, inside, last. Honestly, you don't really worry about remembering this. Let me just show you how it works. So what we do is we take the first term from the first group and we multiply it times each part of the second group. So for example, first x gets multiplied by x, and you get x squared. But now x has to multiply the other part of that group, which was negative, which you get negative 2x when you multiply. And so now we're essentially finished with this x term. And we look at the 3. Okay, so now the 3 multiplies the x, and we get positive 3x. And then 3 multiplies negative 2, and we get negative 6. So really, you just multiplied each piece of this group times each piece of this group. And then check for like terms, which we do have here in the middle. And we end up with x squared. Negative 2 plus 3 is positive 1x, which we can just write plus x, and then minus 6. If you want to pause the video and check your answer in your calculator, that's a good idea. All right, part B, we're doing the same type of thing. We're practicing FOIL one more time. Okay, so don't forget, we're just kind of starting here. The 2x is going to multiply each part of that second quantity, right? The x minus 7. So let's start here. 2x times x is going to be 2x squared. And 2x times negative 7 is going to be negative 14x, right? So 2x times x, and then 2x times negative 7, and we're done with the 2x. Now we're going to move on to the minus 6. So the minus 6 multiplies x, and we get negative 6x. And then the minus 6 multiplies negative 7, and we get negative 6 times negative 7, which is a positive 42. Like terms in the middle here, right? They both just have x. And I'm left with, let's see here, 2x squared. Negative 14 minus 6 is negative 20x. And then finally, positive 42 at the end. All right, so before we move any further, and I'm not sure I said this well enough, if you liked this method better than this method, you can do either one you liked the best. It works every time, right? So if you really didn't understand what I was talking about here, but this made a lot of sense, you can always stick with the way that you like the best. So now for our third way to do this. Again, if you really liked one of the first two, maybe you don't even need to see a third option here, but we're trying to give you guys options to see what you like the best. So this is the box method, and it works real similarly to what y'all see in Punnett squares. So I'm going to color code this to see if it helps y'all. So we have x plus 3. Take that one of the expressions and label the boxes. So x and a positive 3. Your other group, you're going to label the side of the box, so x and a negative 1. It's crucial that if you do have a negative that you write the negative. And so now what you do is in each box you find the product. So I'm going to do x times x, and that's going to go here. All right, so x times x is x squared. All right, in this box, I'm multiplying 3 times x. All right, so 3 times x is just a positive 3x. In this box down here is the product of x and negative 1. So when I multiply those two, I get negative 1x. And finally, the bottom right box is the product of 3 times negative 1. And 3 times negative 1 is negative 3. So just like the other steps, remember how like I had this group of 4? I had 4 terms before I combined like terms. I have 4 terms here too. So now that I've done this, I'm only looking at the terms inside the box. So I have x squared minus 3x, sorry, that's a positive 3x, and then a negative 1x, and then a negative 3. See how I just wrote them all out? And the order you write it in technically doesn't matter, but pretty much all the time you're going to see the x squared in the front, and you're going to see the constant at the end. All right, ax squared plus bx plus c. We've got our standard form going on again. All right, so in the center we've got like terms to combine, which means my final expression here is x squared with a positive 2x, right? 3 minus 1 is 2, and then a negative 3 at the end. Okay, so that's box method. Let's try one more box method just to kind of give you a little bit more experience with it. So we're going to take 4x minus 1, and we're going to label one side of the box. We're going to take another side with my second expression, so 3x and a positive 1. Oops. Okay, So in this first box is going to be the product, right? This box is going to be the product of 4x and 3x. So when I multiply those, I get 12x squared. This box will be the product of negative 1 and 3x. All right, so negative 1 times 3x is a negative 3x. In this box, I've got 4x times 1, which is just 4x. And finally, in this box, I have a lot of kids try and tell me that it's 0 because they, for some reason, accidentally add. But now remember, you're multiplying negative 1 times 1. And negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. So now we can write these terms out. And if you can skip the step of writing them out, you can just combine like terms from the box. That's fine too. Positive 4x minus 1. We're going to combine our like terms. So I've got 12x squared plus, see, negative 3 plus 4 is 1, so just plus x, or 1x, minus 1. All right, there we go. So before you guys finish watching this video, I just kind of want you to reflect for a second and kind of decide if you like one of these ways better than the other. So the first one we did was double distributive. Then we looked at foiling. And finally, we looked at the box method. And again, if you liked one way best, you can always stick with whichever way you prefer. All right? Definitely make sure that you practice this topic because it does take a little bit of getting used to.